Okay, so, you may or may not know this about me, but I like animatronics a lot. Maybe almost to an unhealthy degree. Really, I'm just super into like themed entertainment and kitsch, regardless of where it comes from, but I feel like nothing really epitomizes this feeling better than animatronics. See, I grew up in the early 2000s, as I imagine a lot of you watching also did. The aughts were a weird time for animatronics, since they seemed to always sort of be around, but even as a kid I could tell that the time for these things actually being popular had passed way before I was even born. As much as I like them for their intended charm, I think there's also this, like, aged feeling inherent to animatronics, like, you can't look at them without being reminded that they're to a degree obsolete now. And I guess that's what makes me so attached to them, but at the risk of sounding dramatic, it's left me almost haunted as I enter adulthood. These fever dream memories that I'll be questioning if they were ever real forever. Unless I somehow manage to go back. So, in the time I've spent growing progressively less sane about animatronics, I've started keeping this mental list of where you can actually still see them and watch them perform. And it turns out there's actually a lot more of them than you'd think. We're living with a veritable goldmine of animatronics right under our noses. In fact, there's actually too many for me to reasonably mention in one video. But what I can do is develop a plan for my ideal, extravagant, deeply unrealistic dream road trip to all the animatronic places that I want to go. And we're going to talk about it because maybe that will fix me. Unfortunately, I am a broke 20-something, as many 20-somethings are, so I don't actually have the means to go on this trip. However, I have been lucky enough to visit a good handful of these places, mostly on the East Coast since that's where I live. And since I live on the East Coast, it makes sense for us to start on the West Coast and work our way back home. And if you do have the means to go on this road trip, then, take me with you, please. So, okay. This one requires some context. In 2017, Chuck E. Cheese, the company, began a wide-scale remodel project of all of their restaurants.
This made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move.
There's a lot of reasons people don't like the 2.0 remodel look. The lighting is much brighter now, ruining an atmosphere many people came to enjoy and find nostalgic. The creative and wacky wall art has been replaced with these really corporate-looking decals, and God, I hate that shade of green. But the most obvious and agreed-upon reason for disliking these remodels was simply, the animatronics are gone, replaced by a series of screens. We are not helping Gen Alpha beat those iPad baby allegations. For a lot of people, most people I'd even argue, the animatronics are what makes Chuck E. Cheese stand out as its own brand. I can't imagine a lot of people are going there for the pizza alone, and anyone over the age of 8 looking for an arcade would probably prefer Dave & Buster's or Round 1. The animatronics are what sets Chuck E. Cheese apart. To get rid of them feels like they're missing the point, right? It almost feels like self-sabotage. I can only really speculate on why CEC has been so adamant about 2.0. But needless to say, people were and still are very upset about the whole thing. There were a ton of petitions and emails to corporate from fans trying to save at least one stage, save any piece of the magic, but it felt like these requests were falling on deaf ears. For months, there were rumors of this fabled, hypothetical retro store. Fans who spoke to employees at soon remodeling stores were often told the animatronics had been sent back to corporate for something. Rumors flew of it being a museum, simply an unremodeled store, a store remodeled to look like something from the 80s or 90s, but personally, frankly, it was kind of hard to believe any of it. The whole thing just felt like something employees were told to say to anyone who asked as to not upset them. Like, oh no, the bots aren't in the dumpster, they just went to a store upstate where they get to play with all the other animatronics. As much as we all wanted something like a retro store, the idea was just too vague. It was something a lot of people, myself included, needed to see to believe. On July 25th, 2023, CEC began remodeling their location in Northridge, California. And I want to put emphasis on began because the progress on the remodel just sort of stopped after a while. Northridge sat around for a few months with a dance floor, one of the aforementioned screens, but also a stage. Of course, rumors of this being the fabled retro store started up again, but corporate wouldn't announce anything about Northridge until October of that year.
Thank you for coming to our press conference today. Many of you know us as Chuck E. Cheese and Munch's Make-Believe Band. We are going to be performing on a regular basis here in Northridge, California.
It's called a residency.
We thought we should let you know officially, especially all you superfans out there that want to know where to find us.
It would be grand if you came to see the band in sunny L.A. on a beautiful day.
Thank you, Pasquale. That was beautiful. Thanks for your time, everyone. We'll take one last question.
When are you going to start performing in California?
Why not right now?
Let's do it!
Yeah!
Here's one of our favorites. Hit it!
We can feel the magic.
Northridge would become the Chuck E. Cheese legacy location, or maybe the Munch's Make-Believe Band residency? It's still sort of unclear, but names aside, this basically means Northridge was going to be keeping their animatronics. Only Northridge. They're never doing this again, with any other location. You're welcome. Yeah, people were still sort of upset about this. Don't get me wrong, it's still definitely nice that at least one stage is going to stick around forever, or as long as CEC avoids another bankruptcy. But there's a few annoyances with this plan. Most obviously, Northridge is all the way in California, and a lot of people just don't live anywhere near California. Animatronics fans are usually happy to make a pilgrimage for some 30-plus-year-old robots, but for someone like me who lives in the Northeast, it just doesn't seem worth it. Besides, Northridge isn't even a significant Chuck E. Cheese location. Northridge wasn't even the most significant Chuck E. Cheese location in California. The largest Chuck E. Cheese location in the US is in San Jose, which is also the same city that the very first Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater opened in, all the way back in 1977. Northridge isn't even that good looking of a stage. It just felt like a weird pick, is what I'm trying to say. Call us entitled, I guess. Northridge had its grand reopening on November 10th, 2023, with a special legacy show tape for the animatronics, commemorative pins and posters, and appearances from Nolan Bushnell and David McKillips, the founder and current CEO of Chuck E. Cheese, respectively. It was fine. Northridge is fine. I mean, I still obviously want to go to Northridge, that's why it's on the list. It just still sort of rubs me the wrong way, even now. The whole story of how Northridge came to be feels like a series of CEC corporate half-assing stuff. The legacy stores were meant to be a much larger deal at first, but it feels like they tripped their way over the finish line with this one. Whatever. The western half of the US seems, sparse as far as animatronics go, so maybe we just let them have this one. On to our next stop. The Rainforest Cafe is a chain of jungle-themed restaurants featuring possibly the most potent themed atmosphere I've ever seen a restaurant have. It was founded by Steven Schussler on February 3rd, 1994, when its first location opened in the Mall of America in Minnesota. We'll be making a hypothetical stop up at the Mall of America later on in our trip. You may have had the Rainforest beamed back into your consciousness when two YouTubers took a cross-country road trip to every RFC location in North America. And before you ask, I'm only a little bit jealous. There are 23 Rainforest cafes left in the world, 17 of which are in the United States. Most of these are located in malls owned by the Mills Company. I guess they're all owned by Simon Property Group now? Whatever. My point being, while most locations are in Mills malls, there's still a handful that stand on their own, and they're usually the best RFCs you can find. Few epitomize this theory more than the Rainforest Cafe in Galveston, Texas. The restaurant's exterior is a volcano that features waterfalls and even shoots real fire, located right across the street from the beach. But the main thing that makes Galveston stand out from every other location is the building right next to the restaurant, the Rainforest River Adventure Ride. This is, and I cannot stress this enough, an entire water dark ride with its own dedicated show building, featuring even more rainforest ambiance and animatronics that no other Rainforest Cafe has. It's absolutely criminal how far this is from where I live, because this is a total bucket list spot for me. If you're lucky enough to live near Galveston, do me a favor and visit this Rainforest Cafe. For me, I want to live vicariously through you. So, in the 80s, Chuck E. Cheese's main competitor was a chain called Showbiz Pizza Place, and their band, the Rockefeller Explosion. These days, Showbiz is, effectively no longer in existence. But surprisingly, a lot of their animatronics have actually survived all these years. Many fans and enthusiasts have taken the time to scout these bots out and restore them to their prime. Collectors often sell bots to other collectors, or they hoard every bot on the market and sell them at exorbitant prices, but that's neither here nor there. My point is, there's still a handful of spots where you can still see a Rockefeller show, at least to some extent. And my map tells me that our first chance to see one is at Fun Billiards and Gameroom Superstore in Mesquite, Texas. They have a full stage left, meaning they've got Billy Bob and Looney Bird, and honestly, they look great. I'd love to go visit there someday, if only I... Hold on, sorry, 1 second. Yeah? What do you mean I'm going to Texas? Like right now? I traveled to the Cowboy State for one reason and one reason only, to see these animatronics. Oh, also, my partner, they're Hype Action, I love you. We visited Fun Superstore together and met with Craig Hassel, the store's owner and de facto animatronic tech.
I was I'm in a Facebook group for a lot of games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We buy and sell games, and there was posted one of the arcade groups for Billy Bob for sale. Whoa. from
Wow.
Jack Turner, and I started talking to him, and you know, I never had one before. I had no idea how to work on it, or how he works, and all that kind of stuff. So I got cold feet because I'm like, I mean, if you ship this down here, I don't know how to hook it all up. I don't know how to put it together. He told me what all I needed to do. Then he finally said, you know what, if you buy them, I'll bring them down and set them up. I was like, all right, deal.
Yeah.
So he brought them down, and all I had was him at first just on a little furniture four-wheel dolly.
Yeah.
And I made a video, and I posted it up on Facebook and stuff, and people started coming out of the woodwork, and they're like, hey, I've got the backdrop. Oh,
That's awesome.
I've got that. You know, the moonshine still and the gas pump, and you know, we restored them, and
Am I free on it?
had that repainted and stuff.
Oh my god.
Put a new gas pump on it because the original latex one was rotting off.
Oh wow.
So all this stuff came from like other people helping you out. That's amazing. Wow.
And I figured once I got the stage, I've got to get moving right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and Jack had a spare one of them.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And he restored them, so I was like, yeah, I'll take it.
He got Billy Bob and Looney Bird to play some songs just for us, and even let us get up on the stage to get some pictures. This is now the coolest image on my phone. He also showed us around the rest of the store. If you're unfamiliar, Fun Superstore primarily sells game room supplies like billiards tables, dart boards, and especially pinball machines and arcade cabinets. I'm not that knowledgeable on pinball, but the collection they had was super impressive. We even got to try out this limited edition Munsters themed machine, only 600 of which were ever made. The store also refurbishes and restores old machines, which was just as impressive to see. It was a ton of fun getting to visit, and honestly, I feel like this is an underrated destination. I feel like people overlook this one since they don't have a full band, but the stage is just so well kept that it felt just as magical as seeing the full thing. If you plan to visit, I recommend calling or emailing in advance, since Craig is the only one who can run the bots, and may not be in the store that day if you show up unannounced. Either way, this was a highlight for me, and I definitely recommend you take the trip there if you have the means. You can't see these pins really well, but pretend that you can, for me. We'll be making our fourth stop in Kansas City, Missouri to visit another Rockafire show. Kansas City was home to the first ever Showbiz Pizza location actually, but now it's home to the private show of Jack Turner, a longtime collector and refurbisher of Rockafire animatronics. He's of course also restored this show and actually even built the stage from scratch himself. He's documented the process on a series on his YouTube channel. Jack's stage is a bit different from other Rockafire stages you'll find. Some of the characters have different colored fur and other details changed, meant to be reminiscent of the Rockafire's beta look. I think it's neat to see Rockafire stages with unique elements, so while I haven't been here myself, it's always a treat to see videos of it. Jack does charge $400 for a visit though, so if you're planning to visit a stage yourself, you'll either want to consider a cheaper option or get to saving up. I've got a genius idea. Since you can't see the pins, what if I make them even more visible? Can you see that? Is that any? Yeah, that's visible. Yeah. And then I don't have string, but we'll do a draw our route. Yeah, okay. We arrive in Minneapolis, Minnesota to visit the Mall of America. The Mall of America opened in 1992 and it's the largest shopping mall in the Western Hemisphere, and 12th largest in the world, but that's less impressive. It was here in 1994 that the first Rainforest Cafe opened, and remains their flagship store to this day. I actually have friends in Minnesota, but I haven't been able to visit them there yet. Maybe one day I can... Sorry, one more second, sorry. Hold on. Hello? Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Okay, apparently they went without me. My two very good friends, Allie and Winona, went to the Mall of America Rainforest Cafe to scope it out in my stead. I'm very appreciative. I wish I was there, or maybe I don't? I don't know, let me explain. Being their flagship location, I would have expected the Mall of America RFC to be an S-tier RFC experience, along the line of Galveston or the ones in Disney World. And to their credit, there are a lot of cool things about this location. They've got a really big sky ceiling, which is my personal favorite fixture, along with this mystical-looking wall face thing, which you also don't see all too often. They also have a nice set of animatronics, including the Tiger family, which isn't at every store, and the leopard in the gift shop, which I've actually never seen before. The issue arises, though, with the animatronics. It seems like every bot they have is either moving far too sharply or has movements that aren't working at all, or both. Even my friends noticed it.
Do you think these animals were ever, like, replaced? No?
I don't know Rainforest Cafe history, but those movements look really jerky to me.
I believe this was 1989.
Yeah, that
I
checks
think
out.
so.
That checks out.
Correct me if I'm wrong in the video. He's a little sad.
And a little jerky.
No, they don't make jerky out of leopards.
Like, take the gift shop leopard, for example. Its arm moves sharply, but also somehow weakly, and to me it almost gives the impression that the arms, like, come loose from the socket. Typically, stores that have a leopard animatronic will have it laying on top of a tall rock, and its tail will be hanging down and it'll flick and hit the front of the rock. This leopard seems to be having trouble moving its tail at all, most likely due to an air leak in that part of the body. Listen to that. Do you hear that clicking? Because you're not supposed to. Even Tracy Tree, a typically comforting constant in Rainforest Cafes, looks ugly as sin here. She's so pale. Is she feeling alright? And it's a bit harder to see, but I could swear her jaw mechanic isn't actually in her lower mouth. Like, that entire lower region of her face is just generally wiggling around like it's loose in there. I'm honestly surprised. Again, this is their flagship store. I expected to be looking at these clips they took with awe and jealousy, but I found myself laughing at the animatronics instead. This wouldn't deter me from taking the trip there anyway, but if you could only go to one Rainforest Cafe in your life, I don't know if I'd recommend the Wall of America one. But that's just me. What'd you guys think of it?
Alright, what do you think about date night at Rainforest Cafe?
$70 was a bit much.
I mean, honestly, I really like the ambiance. That was probably the best part.
The animatronics are genuinely fun.
They are, if not extremely dated.
And loud.
And also, we got to keep these. Which, I don't know, I like them. They're fun. I had a good time. Yay!
Oh shoot, I didn't get the yay. That's fine.
Whatever.
I gotta be on the other side. Hold on, wait. I'm left-handed, that's my problem. Yeah! Our next stop brings us to Volo, Illinois, and the Volo Auto Museum. According to their website, the world-famous Volo Museum started as just a farmhouse in the 1800s. It was then a secondhand store that added a small collection of fix-and-flip Model Ts. The number of rare and special cars grew as quickly as the Grams brothers' reputation, and people from all over the area started visiting just to see the collection. Seeing a business opportunity, they started charging $1 and calling it the Volo Auto Museum, which is a very heartwarming story. If only it were true. I'm kidding. Sort of. Wikipedia cites the museum's establishment in 1960. I had figured maybe the family owned the store since the vague 1800s and didn't turn it into a museum until much later than assumed. And then I found another page on Volo's website that says the family bought the property in 1960, so I don't know. Either way, the Volo Museum is pretty far up there on my list of places to visit. Their main attraction is cars, vintage cars, replicas, cars from movies, but they also boast a fucking massive collection of other stuff. Vintage dioramas and parade cars from the Disney parks, a collection of kiddie rides, antique arcade games, carousel organs, medieval torture, and of course, animatronics. Volo's newest and most impressive animatronic show is their Rock of Fire stage. Opening on June 2nd, 2024, it's one of only 3 public Rock of Fire shows in the world, and it's also the only one that's outside. When fans first learned the show is going to be kept in a shed outdoors, there was a lot of concern. Animatronics wear down quick enough as is, and the outdoors is never kind to an animatronic. Heat alone can cause all sorts of mechanical and cosmetic issues, and when you factor in weather conditions, humidity, dirt and dust, bugs, birds, children, well, people worried the show wouldn't hold up. But almost a year later, Volo's Rock Fire has held up incredibly well. They've taken a lot of outside-specific issues into account. The show operates seasonally, performing only on weekends in spring and fall, daily during the summer, and is closed for the season during winter. The stage is also behind a short plexiglass barrier, and instead of curtains, the shed doors close on the characters between performances. They even gave them air conditioning. Volo is also home to various other animatronics. They host a handful of Pizza Time Theater side acts: the Beagles, the Four Little Shavers, and the King, whose head actually fell off last year. He's fine, don't worry. At their Grand Central Station Pizza Parlor, you can watch this pirate-themed animatronic show from Creative Presentations. And if you feel like checking out one of Volo's other attractions, the Jurassic Gardens, you'll be treated to an entire park dedicated to animatronic dinosaurs. The more I talk about this place, the more I wish I could go. So maybe it's time we move on. Okay, so it's recording day 2, and I just realized my last 2 locations were put in the wrong spots, so I've edited the map, and I've double-checked all the future spots that I'm going to be covering in this video, so if any of them are still wrong, now you can make fun of me in the comments. So, remember Northridge? You know, the only stage that Chuck E. Cheese, the company, was planning to keep in the wake of 2.0? Like I said before, people felt kind of cheated by this. Northridge was originally planned to be a normal 2.0 remodel. If anything, it felt like the only reason they made it a legacy store is because they didn't have the money to finish remodeling it. And what's worse, they were acting like they thought they were doing us a favor. Sure, the stage is gonna stay, but we thought you'd care a little more than doing it by accident. And maybe they knew that. Maybe they wanted to do right by the fans. Maybe they were just trying to cover their ass, who knows. Either way, in November 2023, CEC hired a man named Mark Kupferman as their new Chief Insights and Marketing Officer. On March 25th, 2024, Mark made a post to the Chuck E. Cheese subreddit titled Planning Survey from Chuck E. Cheese. The survey wasn't shared by anyone from corporate outside of that subreddit, and Mark even said in the post, "As we embark on an exciting phase of long-range planning, your insights as dedicated fans are incredibly important to us. We're exploring new ideas and would love to hear your thoughts." The post itself didn't actually get much traction, but the survey link spread like wildfire throughout the fandom. While we don't have every insight from the survey, I feel like it's safe to assume that it was mostly taken by CEC fans, and that seemed to be exactly what CEC wanted. The survey asked a wide range of questions: certain demographics of the people taking it, whether or not you've visited Northridge and why, testing ideas for different themed nights and locations, suggesting the idea of an official CEC fan club, and of course, would you like Chuck E. Cheese to keep the animatronics display at another location closer to you? Yes, it's important to me. They also asked for specific locations people wanted to see saved. I put down Hicksville, New York, because it's the closest stage to me and it has a much better stage than Northridge of all things. I mean, really, it's just a superior cyber stage. I mean, you have to let... The most voted upon stages were Billings, Montana, a 3-stage, meaning their bots are retrofits with Rockfire Explosion, and is also the oldest still existing stage type. Hicksville, New York, let's fucking go! A 1-stage, which is super similar to Northridge's 2-stage, but on the East Coast this time, and also better. Springfield, Illinois, a CU 1-stage, which also features retrofitted bots, but uses an original singular stage setup. And Charlotte, North Carolina, another 3-stage, but arguably the best one according to fans. You'll notice most of these locations are 3 stages or something similar to that. I think a lot of fans felt that if CEC were going to save more than just 1 stage, it was important to save a piece of animatronic history. The few 3 stages that remained at this point were all former Showbiz pizza places. While you can still find the Rockafire performing in other places, Showbiz itself is just gone. These locations are all that remain of the actual buildings, and in a lot of cases they still have features from that era. Did you know showrooms used to be actual rooms? Like, they had walls. They don't do the walls anymore. There's only like 3 places left in the world where you can see these walls. Anyway, a couple months after the survey, CEC Corporate comes back with an announcement. A 2nd stage is being saved. In Nanuet, New York? Where the hell is... It's like an hour outside of the city, and it has a Studio C bot, which at that point wasn't getting any more programming support, so it would effectively just be a static figure. And no one voted for this. Where did this choice come from? What do you mean this is the only other stage you're saving? Whatever, it's fine. At least it's in my state, but Hicksville... Well, as long as we still have the chance, we may as well pay a visit to some of these other locations. And since we're already in Illinois... So, in 1989, the relationship between Showbiz Pizza Place and Creative Engineering Inc., the company that produced the actual animatronics for Showbiz, completely dissolved. After merging with Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater in 1985, Showbiz Corporate decided having essentially 2 brands under one company name was too much to keep track of, and long story short, ultimately decided to give Creative Engineering and the Rockafire Explosion the boot. They then converted every Rockafire show into Munch's Make-Believe Band, and a move called Concept Unification, which would usher Chuck E. Cheese into a new era of its life. Most locations that underwent concept unification, kept the same stage they used for their Rockfire show, later dubbed the 3-stage by fans. But in 2010, a location in Whitehall, Pennsylvania remodeled, and the animatronics were placed on 1 stage instead of 3. This stage was named the Concept Unification 1 Stage, or CU 1 Stage for evident reasons. Only 3 Chuck E. Cheese locations were ever given this stage setup, and the only remaining one is in Springfield. I honestly don't know how I feel about the CU 1 Stage. There are parts of it I enjoy, or at least find perfectly inoffensive. The backdrop here is nice, and I think there's something kind of charming about these more sophisticated, more realistic animatronics sharing the same stage layout as any old Cyberamic stage. But at the same time, a lot of changes also bug me. The 3 stage has curtains, set dressing, different backdrops, all of which make the stage feel more alive and like every open space has a use. The CU 1 Stage has none of these things, and it feels somewhat empty as a result. Also, what's up with the sign up there? Chucky's Make-Believe Band? The store might be named after Chuck E. Cheese, but the band has always been Munch's Make-Believe Band. Who gave this rat first billing? Now, all that said, do my complaints dock Springfield any points? Of course not, that'd be crazy. Even if I think the CU 1 stage is a bit lamer presentation-wise than the 3 stages, this stage is the last of its kind and it's worth visiting for that alone. But they should give Munch the band back. It's no secret that Walt Disney World is home to a ton of animatronics. Imagineers cook up some of the best, most advanced animatronics in existence for the Disney parks. But we're not here for them. If we venture just outside of Disney World and into Disney Springs, which is still technically part of Disney World, but leave me alone, we'll find our 4th Rainforest Cafe stop for this trip. This is one of the highest quality RFCs you can find, being at Disney of course, and has an exterior to rival that of Galveston's, probably because it is the same exterior. There's also Rainforest Cafe at Animal Kingdom, just outside the park's gate. I've passed by this one, but I've never been inside. I've never even taken a picture. The best I have is this artist's rendition. I spent $80 on this. But Rainforest Cafe isn't the only restaurant like this at Disney. They actually have a sister restaurant with only one location at Disney Springs called T-Rex Cafe. I had the pleasure of checking it out on my last visit to Florida. While I think I prefer the food at the Rainforest Cafe a little bit more, T-Rex Cafe did not disappoint with the atmosphere and animatronics. Where Rainforest Cafe is sort of sectioned by which animal you're sitting near, as T-Rex Cafe's areas are very visually distinct and have a wider array of dinosaurs than I expected. Instead of thunderstorms, T-Rex Cafe has an extinction event, meteor showers, and they project flying meteors onto the ceiling when this happens. My favorite area was the ice cavern, which lights up in different colors and turns red during meteor showers. We have one last stop in Orlando. Just 20 minutes away from Walt Disney World is the world's largest McDonald's. It's 19,000 square feet and 3 stories tall, and even has a bunch of menu items you can't get anywhere else. Did you know you can get pasta here? A cheesesteak? They even have a dessert bar. The store also features arcade games, a now rare McDonald's play place, and of course, the world's last public Mac Tonight animatronic.
And they've got Mr. Late Night Eating Guy.
While Mac has been left as a static figure for a few years now, as of February 2025, it looks like they're starting to run him again. Whether or not he'll keep performing for long is a bit of a mystery, but hopefully this animatronic has a long second life ahead of him. From here, we begin our journey back north, and we find ourselves in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte is actually home to 2 Chuck E. Cheese stores, one on Pineville Matthews Road and one on Albemarle Road, so they're differentiated by street name instead. If I could cover Albemarle here, I would, just because the absolute dog shit quality of their show has never failed to make me laugh, but unfortunately, Albemarle remodeled in June 2024. Rest in peace, the worst Chuck E. Cheese stage ever. The good news is, Pineville is arguably the best Chuck E. Cheese location there is. It's home to a 3 stage that's better taken care of than a lot of the other venues on this list. It's the only remaining 3 stage to still have a Munch Jr., a retrofit of Choo Choo from the Rockfire Explosion. This Munch Jr. is actually a custom replica made by the store's stage tech. Their Helen also rocks some neon blonde pigtails, my personal favorite look of hers, and Munch's organ has a custom logo on the front. These animatronics just also run so well, oh my god. It's extremely clear just looking at the stage how passionate the employees here are about their animatronics, and how dedicated they are to making the show look as pristine and magical as possible. If you're looking for an experience akin to being at a Showbiz or Chuck E. Cheese in the 80s or 90s, Pineville's pretty damn close. Maybe as close as you can get these days. Or if you just respect animatronics as an art form, Pineville is an absolute must-see. Unfortunately, I'm saying that as someone who hasn't been, but if anything, that just strengthens my point. I must see it. Take me there. Put me in your car. I'll ride in the trunk. I don't mind. People online are always asking, what's your biggest red flag? What's your toxic trait? And the like. As an animatronics fan, my personal biggest red toxic flag trait is that I'll defend Billy Bob's one and I with my life. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you remember concept unification, right? Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz are fighting, Showbiz buys Chuck E. Cheese, and then Showbiz decides to phase the Rockafire Explosion characters out of existence. Since, because of their feud, Showbiz didn't have exclusive rights to the Rockafire, existing franchisee Showbiz Pizza locations were given the option to go through with concept unifying their store, or to sever relations with Showbiz entirely and become an independent venue. A Showbiz located in Barboursville, West Virginia chose the latter, and became Billy Bob's Wonderland. Well, okay, rather, Billy Bob's Wonderland originally consisted of 3 locations, one in East Barboursville, one in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and one in Ashland, Kentucky. In 2003, they consolidated into one larger location at a different building in Barboursville. The Ashland location show was installed on the stage, and the other 2 shows were kept in trailers behind the building. Over the years, Billy Bob's has pulled from these trailers for spare parts and the like, but between certain parts being sold off, lost, broken, or even stolen, their supply seemed to be ever dwindling and ever difficult to replace. The quality of the show began to degrade, and Billy Bob's Wonderland became a laughingstock for the animatronics community. At one point, Aaron Fechter, head of creative engineering and known hater, approached Billy Bob's with an offer to restore the show. However, their agreement wouldn't last long as they'd become involved in a dispute over the show, allegedly resulting in the then owner of Billy Bob's Wonderland saying that if he ever saw Aaron again, he'd shoot him. Yeah. The show would ultimately go neglected for over a decade, and multiple characters wound up in an entirely inoperative state. It wasn't until 2019 that the show would finally receive a full restoration, largely thanks to an employee named Brightland Giles. The restoration was completed in 2021, and the Rockafire Explosion had been returned to hey, pretty good quality. In 2020, Billy Bob's Wonderland began an annual fan convention called BillyCon. Fans traveled from all over the country to attend, and the convention has only grown in size and quality since its inception. I was able to attend BillyCon 4 in July 2024, and if you're a Rockafire fan who's never been, I cannot recommend it enough. I got to meet so many people while I was there, both people I know and admire already in the community, and new friends entirely. BillyCon 5 is already scheduled for July 11th through the 13th of 2025, if the event interests you, but I highly recommend checking it out on an average day too. That was actually how I did my first Billy Bob's experience. I would recommend going on a normal day first, I'm going to be completely honest. The convention's fun, but it's a very different experience from going on like an average Saturday. And if you want the feeling of being at a showbiz, so to speak, where it's just an arcade and they have pizza and there's an animatronic show, go on a normal day. I don't know why I'm so adamant about you doing that, but that's how I did it, so that's the superior experience, of course. In 2023, Billy Bob's Wonderland's owner passed away, and ownership of the restaurant was passed to Mark Hoffman. Just a year later, Braylon left Billy Bob's and took the show's mask molds with him. As such, this show's quality has begun to dip once again. While the remaining stage techs do a decent job of keeping the show running, I think it's grown clear that Billy Bob's Wonderland is mostly keeping its show's head just above the water at this point. In 2024, Aaron Fechter, IP holder of the Rockafire Explosion and known Googler of his own name, claimed online that he was working with the new management at Billy Bob's Wonderland. The extent and details of this collaboration remains vague, to put it lightly, but many people suspect he's there to restore the show once again. What will come of this remains to be seen, I suppose. I joked about defending this venue earlier, and while I do agree with the criticism people have about Billy Bob's strained relationship with their animatronics, events like BillyCon prevent me from ever really believing that Billy Bob's Wonderland is a bad venue. Plus, with it being an arcade that offers pizza, it's the closest modern equivalent to going to a real showbiz. Sure, the animatronics aren't as pretty as Volos or whatever, but there's a certain charm Billy Bob's Wonderland has that I think I'll always have a soft spot for it. Jungle Jim's International Market is a large specialty supermarket in Fairfield, Ohio. It was founded by James O. Bonaminio, the titular Jungle Jim, in the early 70s. It boasts a size of over 500,000 square feet, with hundreds of thousands of products from over 70 different countries, and is apparently big enough to warrant a fucking monorail? Hello? Jungle Jim's also hosts many animatronics throughout its vast space, featuring licensed characters and original characters alike. Many of these animatronics happen to be retrofits of old animatronics from Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater, or just repurposed with no real cosmetic changes, but that's the same thing basically. This small stage features the Jungle Pets, a trio of birds that were originally seen in Pizza Time Theater as the War Blitz, a group of backup singers to the Pizza Time players. The King is here too, an Elvis impersonating lion that was a cabaret act at Pizza Time Theater. Jungle Jim's also has this retrofit of Pasquale that's just... he's Mexican now? As the resident Hispanic person here, I find Pedro here much more funny than I do offensive. I mean, look at him. Look at that face. I hate him. I love him. I hate him the same way that I hate Laughing Sal. And by that, of course, I mean I'd made the holy pilgrimage to Laugh Track at Hershey Park twice now, just to see a Sal that doesn't even move. Maybe someday I'll make the pilgrimage to Ohio as well. Being into animatronics is weird, man. Editing update. Alert. Alert. Pedro has gone missing. I repeat, Pedro has gone missing. If we don't get to the bottom of this soon, I'm not going to have the will to go on. As we reapproach New York, we come into what I like to call the Tri-State Area Animatronic Supercluster. Are there a lot of animatronics in the vague New York State area for some reason? Yes. Is this not actually a supercluster and I'm just being biased because I happen to live in this area? Probably. The Tri-State Area is officially comprised of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. But I've always believed that we should kick Connecticut out and add Pennsylvania instead, so as long as you're watching this video, that's what the Tri-State Area is, okay? I don't even think I've been to Connecticut. It's too small. Can't we merge it with Rhode Island or something? Our first supercluster stop is the American Treasure Tour in Oaks, Pennsylvania. Their website describes the museum as a lighthearted adventure through a 100,000 square foot showcase of pop culture. Which is honestly underselling it. The American Treasure Tour is a massive collection of vintage items, from signage and marketing displays to movie props and replicas, to even more carousel organs and other self-playing instruments, to the world's largest collection of Raggedy Ann dolls, which was apparently actually donated by one woman from Florida after collecting them for 46 years. The museum, of course, also houses animatronics. They have a working set of Pizza Time Theater animatronics, a second Static Chuck animatronic, and a ton of vintage window display animatronics and automatons. My family had originally planned to visit in July last year, but the museum was unexpectedly closed on the day we wanted to go. My mom emailed them the day of, asking if they were really closed or if Google was just lying to us, and we didn't get a response until after coming back home. Turned out they were closed that day, but they made it more than worth our while to come back. Ashley, the person who emailed us back, was extremely polite and gave us 2 complimentary tickets, as well as tickets to their other properties, Arnold's Family Fun Center and Oaks Center Cinema. The employees I interacted with while we were there were also fantastic. One of them even recognized me, which is insane. They tipped me off on the best spot on the tram to see the bots. And after the tram tour, the driver noticed I was wearing a CEC shirt that day and let us get a second look at the bots. I even got to start the show up, which was the highlight of the day.
With a Chuck E. Cheese token.
Oh, it's so cool.
Well, hello everybody, and
so
welcome
cool.
to our show.
So, shout out to Jules and Nick from the American Treasure Tour for making our experience super special. The collection at the American Treasure Tour was amassed almost entirely by one person, the owner of the museum. They're evidently very rich and someone who's been collecting for decades, but they're also completely anonymous. We also checked out the other nearby locations while we were there. Arnold's Family Fun Center is an arcade including other attractions like bumper cars, laser tag, blacklight mini golf, go-karts, bowling, and more. Oaks Center Cinema is a movie theater that apparently also uses the space as an event venue, including weekly open mic nights. Both locations were absolutely gorgeous. The colorful neon and commitment to a more retro aesthetic is very much my thing. However, despite being there on a Saturday afternoon, I noticed both places were sort of unexpectedly empty. Not entirely, of course, but especially for an FEC that offers as much as Arnold's does, I'm a bit surprised it's not a more popular spot with those who live nearby. I can't really confirm if all 3 properties are owned by the same person. The email did describe them as our sister companies, but assuming they are, it paints this picture of this eccentric millionaire that just has a passion for entertainment like this, regardless of the actual profit it may or may not be making. And honestly, if I were an eccentric millionaire, I'd probably be doing the same thing. We'll next make our way up to New Jersey for 2 more Rainforest cafes, one in Atlantic City and one in Edison. Despite being a smaller location, the Atlantic City RFC is actually a great spot for a day trip since it's on the boardwalk. You can eat there and spend some time afterwards strolling the boardwalk or checking out the gift shops. Or going gambling, that's also an option. Conversely, the Edison location is best known for, being the worst Rainforest cafe location there is. I actually haven't been to this one. I was given the choice between the 2 New Jersey locations, and can you really blame me for picking Atlantic City? So here's the thing. The next line in the script is me saying I still want to go to Edison just to see the spectacle of how shitty it is. But while I was setting up to record, like today, I was double checking my geography and I looked up the Edison Rainforest Cafe and Google Maps says it's permanently closed. It wasn't like that last week. I don't know if this one still counts. It's fine. It's fine. You weren't going to visit Edison anyway. Nobody cares about Edison. I care about Edison, but I'm insane, so it's fine. Finally, we reach New York State. But this doesn't mean the end of the road trip, not yet at least. There's actually 3 more places to visit, all just outside New York City. Stu Leonard's is a regional chain of supermarkets in the actual tri-state area, with 8 total locations in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. 6 years after Stu Leonard Sr. was convicted for setting up an elaborate 10-year-long tax fraud scheme, the chain opened a location in Yonkers, New York, which I got to visit this past November. And it was, fine? This might sound harsh, but Stu Leonard's was my least favorite place on this list. Listen, a supermarket full of animatronics sounds awesome, especially since Jungle Jim's is pretty far from where I live. I was really excited going in, and to their credit, they do have a lot of animatronics. They just weren't all exactly working. The first band we saw didn't have any audio playing during shows, a lot of bots had really low air pressure or were otherwise in poor condition, and the ones that did work seemed to only be the ones that existed to spout boring, awkward advertisements.
It's me, your friend Woody Pine Tree. Did you know that over half your body is made up of water? Your body needs water so it can run, skip, and play. Icky, sticky sugar drinks can't do it. Poland spring water can. Sip, sip, sip. Glug, glug, glug. Poland spring water, give me a hug. Sip, sip, sip. Yum, yum, yum. Poland spring water, give me some. Your body needs water to run, skip, and play. So drink a lot of water every single day.
The one that really bugged me, though, was seeing the Hank and Bo show. These 2 bots are mild retrofits of Huck L. Berry and Colonel Beaufort T. Beauregard, Huck and Bo, essentially, from another animatronic show, Daniel and the Dixie Diggers. There's only a few places left you can see this band, and I didn't know what to expect going into Stu Leonard's, so it was actually a great surprise for me to see them there. I eagerly waited for their show to start, and kept waiting, and kept waiting. Hell, even other people were waiting around, hoping they'd eventually move despite the odds, but they never did. They were just off that day. Which happens, sure, but in combination with the other slight disappointments of the visit, it just wound up as one average-sized disappointment overall. Maybe I just went on the wrong day, maybe I just visited the wrong store, who knows? If there are Stu Leonard's defenders out there, feel free to tell me how wrong I am in the comments. That's not to say I hated Stu Leonard's, though. There were a few animatronics I really liked. I liked this Banana Lady's design, and I'd be a monster if I didn't love Clover the cow. I also loved the Avocado Girls in my own slightly ironic way. Their jingle is equal parts annoying and hilarious. I want to go back at some point, though maybe to a different store this time. Sorry, Stu Leonard's. At least your popcorn's good. So, I have a confession to make. I may or may not have been lying to you this entire time. Well, lying is a strong word. I haven't fed you any misinformation. I've just been withholding some things for a dramatic effect. Just hear me out, okay? Imagine this. It's May 2024. You're a Chuck E. Cheese fan. Stay with me. Stay with me. Just pretend for a second. Stay with me. Okay. It's been 2 months since CEC put out their survey, and so far nothing seems to have come of it. On May 11th, the New York Times released an article about Chuck E. Cheese, and with it we had confirmation that the only other stage staying past Northridge was Nanuet, another location with nothing particularly special about it at best. The more devastating aspect of this news was the implied fate of every other stage. Stages like Pineville, Springfield, Hicksville, my Hicksville, they were all going to go away forever. These locations were not only historic and beloved, but widely fucking requested on that survey. They were just doing it again, pretending to listen to fans, then wondering where their thanks were when they handed us something completely different than what we asked for. People couldn't tell if they were doing it maliciously for whatever reason, or if corporate was just full of a bunch of idiots. What's worse, though, was the news from behind the scenes. Hicksville stage tech Tyler, better known by fans as Rock Fire Moon, came forward on the same day to let people know just how corporate had been treating Hicksville. So for about 3 to 4 months, we were being told we were keeping our show, and they had us ordering parts and had me coming in early some days to work on the show. Eventually, I was informed that we were going to be visited by David, and they wanted me along with a few other people to be interviewed about the show. I agreed to the interview, and everything seemed like it was going well. Then they had us go on a training call for the interview and gave us a bunch of different papers to review. They then told us that our show was getting removed and I was not allowed to say anything positive about the show. It could only promote the Better Now promotion and talk about how great Northridge was. I then backed out of the interview as I did not want to talk about something that I didn't agree with. I will say that after the interview, David realized how many people care about the show and the amount of people that were watching it that day, and spoke to my district manager, who then mentioned to me that they were going to consider reevaluating our remodel closer to when it happens, but wouldn't know until last second. But considering that they said Nanuet during the interview, it doesn't give me much hope for Hicksville. The one thing David did say to me was how well it's known in the company that Hicksville is one of the good shows still around, and I was later informed by our district tech it was going to be sent back. They basically told me that if I do the interview and say anything positive about the show, I would lose my job. I think the biggest fuck you is in the section in the article that talked about the show being in perfect condition, and then immediately mentioning how it's going to be gone. It was a real kick in the teeth of a day, is what I'm trying to say. Everyone was being strung along here, and it sucked. The following day, YouTuber Set Streets and Eats posted a video about the situation. Set Streets and Eats is run by a guy named Chris Bauer, who frequently travels around the country for work and stops at animatronic spots wherever he is, often Chuck E. Cheese's. He was also the source of a lot of buzz around Pineville, using his channel to campaign for keeping the stage for months before this. He's a popular face in the fandom, to the point that he's evidently got a direct line to Mark from corporate. The video he posted is visibly impromptu, and it's mostly him relaying info from a recent discussion with Mark about Nanuet. Mark claims Nanuet will be a hybrid store like Northridge, assumedly keeping the stage while adding a dance floor and TV wall. When asked if Nanuet would have programming, he dodged the question, but said they have quote-unquote something cool planned for the store, whatever that means. And maybe most importantly, he says that the decision to keep Nanuet was made before the survey was released, meaning the stores people voted for on the survey weren't entirely off the table. But with 2 stages already saved, and the second one only coming after an outcry from fans, it felt like convincing corporate to save any more than one more stage was a long shot. So while the 3 survey stages weren't dead quite yet, it began to feel more like a standoff. Who would be the last one standing? Well, corporate deliberated for a couple of weeks, and each passing day felt like a new eternity for fans. David posted this on his Instagram on May 23rd. After I had a chance to visit Hicksville, New York, and Springfield, Illinois, our head of insights and marketing, Mark Kupferman, is visiting Pineville, North Carolina, to make some final decisions on the next remodel. That same day, Mark had a very active day on Reddit. Here's some of what he had to say. A lot of these are great ideas. Others don't work so well for a company whose customer base is made up almost entirely of families with kids 3 to 7 years of age. We literally have tens of millions of customers a year. 99.9% of them are families with young kids. Their needs are very different from those of adult enthusiasts focused on the nostalgia and animatronics. Why don't we have all ages for our market? That would be a huge change. Our mission for the last 40 years or so has been to serve as a haven for families with younger kids. Since the 80s, we have been the place where a kid can be a kid. We have Kid Check to make sure parents don't have to worry about their kids wandering off. We specialize in creating the best, most incredible, amazing birthday parties for little kids. We have walk-around characters for the kids to hug and dance with. We have trampolines that have a maximum height requirement instead of a minimum height requirement, so little kids can jump without worrying about getting in the way of big kids. In other words, focusing on all ages would require us to be something we aren't built to be. It would require us to be less focused and less good at the things we do really, really well. And with all of the D&Bs, main events, round ones, and other numerous FECs really only focused on the older crowd, it would leave our core market underserved. It would go against our mission and our brand promise. I agree we can always be more user-centric. We can do surveys, although the truth is we already do tons of surveys. We could have a larger guest support team, although we already did have a call center with a couple of dozen agents, and we could solicit more outside feedback. But even if we did, it would mostly be about supporting families with younger kids, because that is who we are and what we do. With all that said, we do care about our legacy, and we have a tremendous respect for the people who care about our brand and our characters as much as we do. And we are trying to do more. We are saving the animatronics at a couple of locations, not because it's a good business decision, but out of respect for our history and our fans. It is quite literally a labor of love. As an aside, I'm looking forward to visiting Pineville this weekend to see what all the fuss is about. Let me know if any of you will be there, and I'd love to meet you. He also said, everything we've ever said was true at the time we said it. I guarantee you that when we announced Northridge, we had absolutely no plans to keep animatronics at any of the other locations. After seeing the response to Northridge, we took a step back and considered, and are still considering, whether we can or should do more. Don't get me wrong, animatronics are not the future of our business. The families who make up 99.9% of our audience want something different. But we care about our legacy, and we care about the people who have fond memories of Chuck E. Cheese. So out of respect to them, we have considered other options. It feels a little passive-aggressive, right? This whole time I've been making funeral plans for Hicksville because there's no way in hell they're keeping 2 stages in the same state, so I kinda couldn't care less. I'm busy mourning. Also, my partner was visiting that week, so I was a little distracted. We'd actually had plans to visit Hershey Park that following day. So, imagine you're me on May 24th, 2024. You're standing outside the gate to Hershey Park, and you pull out your phone to get the tickets up, and you see this. Imagine Imagine my surprise. You can't. It's immeasurable. Oh my god. It's over. It's all over. And everyone wins. Well, other than the other 500 stores that weren't being saved. But for the bone that we had been thrown, it was the best possible outcome. 5 stages were going to stay, with a variety of stage types and in a variety of states. This was up from 1, which was up from none. It was a huge victory for the fans, and, well, I can't say everything's been perfect since then. People always have their gripes with corporate. I think this is as good a place as ever for a happily ever after, right? Well, I mean, those aren't the only places you can see animatronics. Alright, let's do this quick. Huckleberry Junction Playhouse Theater in Genesee, Michigan is a family entertainment center that hosted 3-piece Daniel and the Dixie Diggers show, as well as this guy, Jethro P. Hogg. The Rainforest Cafe in San Antonio, Texas is situated on the San Antonio Riverwalk, which is a gorgeous spot to sightsee and shop. The Opry Mills Rainforest Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee has a hippo outside the store instead of an alligator. It's the only RFC to have this, and I genuinely have no clue why or where this hippo even came from. And while we're talking about Rainforest Cafe, you can find their other locations in Arizona Mills in Tempe, Arizona, Grapevine Mills in Grapevine, Texas, Katy Mills in Katy, Texas, Great Lakes Crossing in Auburn Hills, Michigan, Gurney Mills in Gurney, Illinois, Las Vegas, Nevada, Ontario Mills in Ontario, California, and Sawgrass Mills in Sunrise, Florida. You can also find Rockfire Explosion shows and in some cases Pizza Time Theater animatronics at private collectors venues, like Smitty Super Service Station in Little Improved, Mississippi. Stu Leonard's has New York locations in East Meadow and Farmingdale, New Jersey locations in Clifton and Paramus, and Connecticut locations in Danbury, Newington, and Norwalk. Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum in Michigan, try saying that 3 times fast, holds a plethora of animatronics and other mechanical figures from throughout the decades, including a handful of static Pizza Time Theater animatronics. They're currently in the process of moving from their original location in Farmington Hills to inside Orchard Mall in West Bloomingfield, but I definitely suggest going once they reopen. And speaking of Chuck E. Cheese, if you can believe it, there's still a couple of locations that are in legacy stores that still have their stages. A very dedicated fan has put together and upkeeps this spreadsheet with every remaining stage. I'll leave the link in the description. If you happen to live near a store with a stage, this may truly be your last chance to see it before it remodels. This spreadsheet actually includes CEC locations outside of the US, many of which still have their stages. Actually, that gives me an idea. I'm not going to be able to put this on the map, so just bear with me. Chuck E. Cheese has 10 locations in Canada, 13 in Chile, 3 in Puerto Rico, 2 in Guatemala, 27 in Saudi Arabia, 21 in Mexico, 5 in Peru, 2 in Panama, 2 in Trinidad and Tobago, 2 in Honduras, and 1 each in Colombia, El Salvador, Suriname, Qatar, Egypt, Kuwait, and the Dominican Republic, most of which still have stages. Again, check the spreadsheet for more details on these locations. Rainforest Cafe has a few international locations as well. Niagara Falls is an RFC both on the New York side and the Ontario side, and is the only Rainforest Cafe with salmon on the menu and sharks in the fish tanks. The Ontario location gives Galveston a run for its money. You can also find them in France and Japan, both near each country's respective Disney parks. There's also locations in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and I believe their newest location in Malta. Ushutsu Ski Resort in Hokkaido, Japan actually hosts several animatronic shows, all produced by Sally Corporation. Their main band, and also the mascots of their resort, is a 5-piece Daniel and the Dixie Diggers show, the last place on Earth you can see the show with all 5 members. The characters in this version of the show have been mildly redesigned, and I honestly prefer these designs over the original. Fantasylandia in Santiago, Chile has their own show called the Robotunes, which are actually retrofits of an original Hard Luck Bear show, one of the predecessors to the Rockafire Explosion. And speaking of the Rockafire, you can find them internationally as well. Gulliver's Kingdom and Gulliver's World theme parks in the United Kingdom both feature a show called the Hard Luck Bears, mostly unrelated to the first, that are retrofits of the Rockafire Explosion. Gulliver's did produce some of their own show tapes for this version of the band, but they mostly play original show tapes from the Showbiz Pizza era. Gulliver's Land also has a Hard Luck Bear show, but it's currently undergoing refurbishments and it isn't available for viewing until it's finished. Dream Factory in Degersheim, Switzerland is a museum along the lines of Volo or the American Treasure Tour, and features a full Rockafire Explosion stage, save for Looney Bird unfortunately, but also including Uncle Clunk, a short-lived side character to the band, making him a valuable and rare addition to the stage. With all this in mind, I think it's very clear now just how many places there really are to see animatronics. I've definitely forgotten or missed more places in my research, and if you feel like proving my point, tell me what I forgot in the comments. I mean, there's probably countless places like this, far too many to put in one video, far too many to... Maybe there's too many places to see in one lifetime, let alone one trip. I suppose that puts a damper on all of this. Huh. See, The thing about being into something very niche like animatronics for themed entertainment is you eventually become aware that niche communities like this can exist for quite literally anything. I've seen people dedicate insane amounts of time to things like electric fans, street lights, ballpoint pens, and I always find myself somewhat captivated by their passion for it, even if I know I don't carry that much interest for it myself. I always have this thought of, what if I tried to get into it too? Just to see what was so exciting about it. But really, you only get so much time in one life. It's just impossible to see absolutely everything there is to see, or learn everything there is to learn. Life isn't a race because it can't be. So maybe the point isn't to get as much done as possible, but to cherish the things around you as much as possible, especially if they could be gone one day. You may have noticed I didn't actually talk about the 2 Chuck E. Cheeses in New York. What's so special about that Hicksville anyway? Well, the thing is, there kind of isn't anything special about Hicksville. It's a better taken care of stage than most, thanks to people like Tyler. But just like Northridge and Nanuet, there isn't actually much that makes Hicksville a must-see like some of the other places I brought up. Hell, a lot of these places aren't important at all. If they all disappeared one day, I don't think a lot of people would notice, let alone care. But I would. The fans who rallied to save CEC stages cared. If you've watched this far, I imagine you care too, at least a little bit. If these places were to disappear, we'd be affected by it. I've had Chuck E. Cheese's and Rainforest cafes that once built formative memories in my life close or remodeled, disappear. It's just not the same without them. I think that makes them important, to me. As long as someone out there cares, it doesn't matter how silly or obscure it is. If it can affect just one person, then it's already justified its existence. It's important. It's worth caring about. I'll probably never be able to go on this entire road trip myself, but I have been to a lot of these places, and I absolutely still want to visit the ones I haven't been to yet, even the international ones. If you have the means to visit even just one of these places, I think you should go. Keep justifying its existence, you know? And if this video essay does inspire someone to go out and look at some animatronics, you've justified this video's existence too. So, thank you. Really. But seriously, if you're gonna go anywhere, you should really just go to Hicksville. I mean, it's just such a good stage, like, come on.
Oh, I've been staying at home. Maybe we could both go somewhere far away. Gas in my car, I think I'll really go far with you. See, so many places to see. A new time to feel free. On the open road, all that and more. I think I'm really gonna soar with you. With you. With you. To Leonard's, Galveston, Billiards, Wonderland, Northridge, Pineville, Supercluster, Minefield, Jack Show, Treasure Tour from Billiards, Superstore, T-Rex Cafe, with that on a Segway, oh, with you, with you.